Boxing King Media in association with Boxroad. Dave Coldwell, we've just seen Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia. The fights took place. It's done, dusted. I've got to ask you, man, did they live up to expectation?
Um, yeah, yes and no. I'll be honest with you. I love my boxing, and I saw this fight as a little bit more than just the speed versus the power, raw power. Gervonta Davis has got such a good boxing IQ. He's got very high boxing ability, and I kind of expected him to be like that. We've seen him in fights before when he's in with people that can bang. He'll box cagey and he'll be smart and he'll pick his shots. And then you got to think about going in. We knew that Ryan Garcia doesn't have that same sort of level of boxing IQ and boxing ability. So when it becomes a boxing match, that's what can happen. I feel that Davis completely nullified Garcia, and when Garcia went to work, you can see that inexperience and that probably that level below an ability where he wasn't boxing at his own, he wasn't unloading his own range, he was overreaching, and that's when as soon as he gets dropped in that round two, that tells you the blueprint. Every time he over commits, he's open to a Davies counter, which it can be lethal. So it panned out quite cagey, which a lot of big fights where you've got big punches where one mistake can turn a fight, end a fight, can get like. But I still enjoyed it. I thought Davis was very, very good. I thought Garcia tried and rolled the dice a few times, letting go of his hands, put himself in some dangerous spots. But ultimately that cost him.
Do you think that knockdown changes his tactics, or do you think these tactics were just to be cagey and attacking straight?
Listen, there was no. They could tell round one. There was no doubt about it. He wants to get that left hook off. Left hook, left hook, left hook, left hook. He's looking for a way to get in to be able to throw that left hook. But a lot of times he was throwing it still high. You got to think about the height disadvantage that Davis has that turns into an advantage. He's the left hook's going over the top of his head. So then Garcia's feeling vulnerable. So then it makes him not have that same belief and confidence in that left hook. So I just think that's, you're talking about boxing abilities, and Davis is very, very good, very, very good. He's not just a banger. And the problem is that when he finds those counters can be absolutely devastating. We've seen it all the way through his career. And the body shot that ends it, I've seen a few people online saying, oh, it wasn't much. Mate, that was right on the spot. There are certain points when you get hit to the body where it can completely. It doesn't have to be a big, powerful shot where you've got a lot. You've got a lot of force coming in it. Let's not forget, Davis can punch from short range. Just the punch can travel short distances and it can generate a lot of power as it is. But it was right on the spot. You see how his body straight away it reacts to it. Takes that breath in and it's like a stab. It's like a knife going straight through into your lungs, and it zapped him. I did think, look at him on the canvas when on his knee. I did think he was going to get up at 8, but he didn't, and that's how sometimes boxing goes.
I've seen a few people mention this now. Do you think there was an element of potentially getting up and getting stopped in a more conclusive manner? The risk of that, does that play into a fighter's mind?
I don't know. It depends on the individual. People can always have that assumption about fighters when they go down with a body shot. 'Cause it doesn't quite. Sometimes it doesn't look as brutal. Your head bouncing off. I mean, we see a lot of tanks fights where you see the headshots and you see the head snapping back, and it looks massive. Um, but we never question a fighter when they do get hit with a big shot, they go down, and then they look. The head might have cleared straight away. You don't know. The same with thing with a body shot, but it's a bit more disguised where it can have cleared and you can feel as though you've got your breath back and you can get up. But a body shot, I think, is it's very sickening. And we've seen fights before where there've been fighters have took tremendous punishment, to the head, and it's been a tear up all the way through. And then a fighter gets hit with that one body shot, and sometimes it's an innocuous body shot. It doesn't look, massive, and it completely takes the life out of them, takes the fight out of them, and that can happen. I think, listen, Garcia is a young kid. Do you know one thing about this? The problem is when there's high stakes involved and fights. You know, we talk about fights wanting to be made and things like that. The problem is that when the reason why a lot of fights probably don't get made is because when they've got such a high profile, you know, they've got that and they've got that fan base and things like that. When they get beat, they get torn to shreds, you know, and people want to then criticize them on every aspect, and that, you know, that the pressure of that is sometimes why a lot of these fights don't get made. And I've got to say, these two kids, young fighters, unbeaten fighters, both punchers, both massive followings, massive fan base. They've took the sport, they've grabbed the sport themselves, and they've pulled the sport up here in getting this fight made, the build up, everything. You know, I hope it's done great numbers. You know, I'm not one of these that really cares about it. Everybody always talks about numbers. Fans talk about numbers, how many does it sell, how many. So listen, just get the fights made. You know, that the numbers business is down at promoters, but you know, that impacts them on their finances. You know, it doesn't impact me right now. Did I want to see that fight? Was I excited about that fight being made? And I was so buzzing in a sport at the moment that's struggling a little. Was I so buzzing that a fight like that of that magnitude at this stage where they're not past the sell by days and where they're thinking, oh, let's just cash in. They rolled the dice, they took it. So yes, Garcia gets beat. Yes, he gets done with a body shot. He might have thought, well, I could carry on, but he's going to wipe me out now. And that's down to him. That's, you know, this is boxing. You know, that takes a special kind of character to know to get into that ring knowing you're going to get absolutely smashed. Let alone when you get dropped, to know that you're going to get up and go back out there and get finished because you got nothing left. You know, and he might have sat that one out, might not have, but credit to them both for taking the fight. You know, it was fantastic crowd. You know, online everybody's, you know, people are up, people are getting up for it. I don't get up for fights these days. You know, I'm up early in the mornings, so I don't get up for fights these days. I'll tend to not look at my socials and catch up in the morning. I've been so excited to watch this fight. So credit to them both. They've done a fantastic job.
And a quick mention on the trainer situation. Obviously, you've got experience of like at the same sort of level, you know, training fighters. What did you make of the corner instructions from both trainers? And I also noticed Floyd Mayweather was also passing instructions to Gervonta Davis. He seemed like he was more focused on what Floyd was saying in between rounds. I don't know if you picked up on that or not.
I've seen that. I've seen that before with Davis. I've seen that with Floyd at ringside. He's kind of done that a lot. I mean, he's I think he's done work with him before or whatever. But listen, they've both got two amazing coaches. You know, Joe Gooson's been there, done that over decades. You know, and with Calvin, he's a top level coach. These are guys that know the sport inside out, and especially in Davis's camp, he's known him since he was a kid. He's known him all the way. You know, he knows him as a man. You know, for years and years, and I think they know how to get the best out of fighters. So instructions, from what I heard, listen, it was hard. Sometimes it's hard to hear what's going off in the corners. You know, commentary talking over and things like that, and you don't get to hear much of it. But a lot of times as well, a corner, a coach will be talking to a fighter in a manner that he knows how he gets a reaction and gets a response out of his fighter, you know. But yeah, listen, the fight, for me, the fight delivered. It wasn't that I never expected it to be a back and forth tear up, because I always thought that, what, you know, as soon as Tank lands, I didn't think Garcia would be able to take it. Listen, he did well to get up from that shot. You know, this is a man that, you know, no disrespect to Luke Campbell. Luke's not a dynamite puncher. He punches hard, but he's not a Gervonta Davis type of puncher. And going into it, everybody was saying, all Tank's got to do is to hit him once, and that's going to be it. The kid got up after that second round knockdown. Fair play to him. You know, he proved something there, but he just couldn't take the body shot. And that sometimes that's how it goes. You can take the shots to the head, you can't take the body shots. But in a fight like this, I didn't expect it to be a back and forth, because I didn't think Garcia would be able to take any kind of Tank power.
And the last question, Dave, before I let you go, Gervonta Davis, this was a catch weight at 136. what weight should he fight at, and who do you want him to see? Who do you want him to fight next?
Listen, the lightweight division for me is just the division in boxing. You know, you've got some outstanding names. You've got some outstanding fights going off now. Stick Davis in that mix. Let's get him in that mix. Let's get these fights made. You know, we know that he'll get the fights. It's the people around. A lot of these fighters will take the fights, but it's the people around them that don't want the fights or too much to lose for their needs, too much to lose, you know, for their reputations and for going forward. These two have shown tonight. Let's get the fights made. This is what boxing needs. It's what boxing wants. It's what fans want.
100%, Dave. I really appreciate your time. Cheers for that great analysis, and
Cheers, man.
good night, man.